You know, there's something most people don't notice about being good until it all breaks down. The world celebrates women who are kind, easygoing, gentle, and endlessly patient. But here's the thing, it quietly penalizes them when those same qualities get confused with weakness. In our shared imagination, goodness is supposed to be soft, flexible, and safe. But the human mind doesn't function that way. What you deny doesn't just vanish. It goes beneath the surface where it becomes twisted and harmful. A woman who is only good in the conventional sense, who has never acknowledged her own potential for danger, isn't complete. She's divided. And what's divided can't be trusted, not even by itself. She discovered early on that acceptance came from going along. She discovered that love had conditions, that it was earned through staying quiet, being patient, and erasing herself. Her identity formed around an image that others rewarded. The good partner. The good woman. But underneath that image, something else started building up. Anger she wasn't permitted to feel. Boundaries she wasn't permitted to create. Power she was taught to be afraid of. The shadow isn't evil. It's raw, natural, and morally neutral. When you ignore it, it doesn't disappear. It waits. This is where danger first shows up. Not as meanness, but as possibility. The possibility to say no and actually mean it. The possibility to leave without explaining yourself. The possibility to disrupt what people expect. The truly good woman feels this inner conflict long before she comprehends it. She feels drained by her own niceness. She catches herself being resentful in passive ways. She wonders why doing what's right leaves her feeling empty inside. This is her psyche signaling something's off balance. Ancient philosophers talked about virtue as strength guided by reason, not giving in to outside approval. They warned that people who live to please others become strangers to themselves. Goodness without inner authority isn't virtue. It's fear dressed up in moral clothing. At some moment, usually after betrayal, loss, or being overlooked for too long, something breaks. Not loudly, but internally. The woman starts to feel a low, unfamiliar warmth beneath her chest. This isn't hatred, it isn't bitterness. It's life force coming back to territory she abandoned long ago. This is the encounter with the shadow. It's frightening because it contradicts the identity she's relied on to survive. If she lets this dangerous part exist, who will she become? Who will she let down? Who will walk away? This is the moment where the psyche demands wholeness. Not rebellion just for the sake of it, but integration. A woman who can't access her capacity to harm, symbolically speaking, to pull back, to confront, to end things, will unconsciously draw in people who act out that danger for her. She'll project what she can't own. She'll call others cruel, selfish, or abusive while staying blind to her own rejected power. What remains unconscious shows up as fate. What gets integrated becomes choice. You might recognize this pattern. You might have confused safety with goodness, politeness with morality, endurance with love. You might have been praised for being easy to be around while feeling increasingly hard to live with inside yourself. This isn't a personal failing, it's a cultural injury. Our shared consciousness still fears feminine power unless it's softened, made pretty, or made acceptable. Yet symbolically, the feminine has always held both creation and destruction. The mother who nurtures is the same force that protects fiercely. The queen who blesses is also the one who exiles. Subtle danger doesn't mean violence. It means clarity. It means the quiet certainty that you can survive losing approval. Ancient wisdom tells us that no one can harm you without your consent. But that assumes an inner authority most people have never built. The dangerous woman has. She doesn't threaten. She doesn't perform dominance. Her power lives in self-possession. In her presence, manipulation fails because it finds nothing to grab onto. Guilt loses its grip. Emotional chaos finds no audience. As this woman integrates her shadow, her goodness changes texture. It becomes selective, rooted, and calm. She no longer offers kindness as a plea to be loved, but as a deliberate choice. Her empathy no longer erases her limits. Her compassion no longer demands self-betrayal. This is why her goodness feels different. It isn't desperate. It isn't eager. It isn't afraid to pull back. And this is exactly why it's trustworthy. As this integration happens, the woman starts to notice a subtle shift in how the world responds to her. The same softness remains, but it's no longer porous. The same warmth exists, but it no longer leaks. People sense something unnamed and instinctive, like standing near a quiet fire that doesn't need to announce its heat. This is the presence of contained power. Psychic energy, when held by consciousness, becomes stable. When it's unbound, it becomes chaotic. The woman who has met her shadow doesn't radiate chaos. She radiates gravity. In earlier years, her goodness invited intrusion. Confessions were poured into her without permission. Expectations settled on her shoulders as if they belonged there. She was chosen not for who she was, but for what she absorbed. Now something has changed. She listens without disappearing. She gives without depleting. And when the line gets crossed, her response isn't dramatic but final. This is the danger others feel but can't name. It's the danger of consequences. This transformation often confuses people who knew her before. They sense a loss, though nothing has been taken from them. What they're mourning is access. The psyche resists change when it disrupts familiar roles. The woman was once a mirror for projections, a container for unprocessed emotions. Now she reflects people back to themselves. Becoming whole often feels like betrayal to those who benefited from your unconsciousness. The good woman who becomes dangerous gets accused of becoming cold, selfish, or difficult. These accusations reveal more about the speaker than about the woman herself. You might feel the discomfort of this moment, the guilt that comes up when kindness is no longer automatic, the fear that boundaries make you unlovable. Yet ancient wisdom cuts through this illusion with clarity. Freedom begins when you stop handing over inner authority to the opinions of others. The dangerous woman understands this not as an idea, but as lived truth. She no longer negotiates her worth through suffering. This danger is subtle because it's internal. It doesn't seek to dominate. It seeks to remain intact. In relationships, this changes everything. The woman no longer confuses intensity with intimacy. She no longer mistakes emotional chaos for passion. Her shadow, once feared, now acts as a guardian. It alerts her when something feels wrong. It stiffens her spine when old patterns try to return. This isn't paranoia. It's discernment refined by pain and reflection. The inner masculine principle also transforms here. When underdeveloped, it shows up as self-doubt, harsh inner criticism, or an unconscious attraction to controlling figures. As the shadow integrates, this inner masculine becomes an ally rather than an internal tyrant. The woman's thinking sharpens. Her speech becomes direct. She no longer over-explains. This is often mistaken for arrogance, but it's simply coherence. Thought, emotion, and action start to align. There's a moment, quiet and almost unnoticeable, when she realizes she no longer fears being misunderstood. This is liberation. The need to be seen correctly by everyone dissolves. Ancient wisdom tells us it's foolish to try to escape the judgment of others when you can't even escape your own. The dangerous woman has faced her own judgment and survived it. External misinterpretation loses its sting. From the outside, she may appear calmer, even softer than before. This is the paradox. True danger doesn't advertise itself. It doesn't posture. It rests. The collective unconscious recognizes this archetype immediately. It's the priestess who guards the threshold, the queen who rules without spectacle, the healer who refuses to rescue those unwilling to change. Her presence invites truth, not comfort. And many aren't prepared for that invitation. You might sense this archetype waking up within you. Not as anger, but as clarity. Not as rebellion, but as refusal. The refusal to abandon yourself for harmony. The refusal to shrink to preserve attachment. This refusal isn't cruel. It's merciful in the deepest sense, because it ends cycles of silent resentment and unconscious punishment. Unexpressed shadow becomes fate. Expressed and integrated, it becomes character. As this woman continues forward, something else emerges alongside danger. Peace. Not the peace of avoidance, but the peace of self-alignment. She no longer needs to prove her goodness. It's evident in her restraint, her selectivity, her calm. She's learned that only those capable of harm can truly choose not to harm. Only those capable of leaving can truly stay. And this is where her journey deepens. As peace settles in, it doesn't arrive as bliss or certainty, but as a grounded stillness that can handle contradiction. The woman discovers that her danger side doesn't make her harder, but clearer. She no longer flinches at conflict, nor does she seek it. She understands now that harmony forced by fear is a fragile illusion. Real harmony emerges only when opposing forces within the psyche are allowed to speak. Wholeness is never the result of purity, but of synthesis. Light alone blinds, shadow alone consumes. Together they form sight. This sight changes how she loves. Love is no longer a transaction of endurance or sacrifice. It becomes a meeting of two intact selves. She no longer believes that goodness means staying when the soul is eroding. The capacity to leave, once terrifying, becomes a silent stabilizer. It's not used as a threat, but as an inner certainty. This is the danger that cleanses relationships of manipulation. Nothing binds her except choice. Many never reach this stage because it requires mourning an old identity. The good woman must grieve the version of herself that survived by pleasing. She must acknowledge that her kindness was once a strategy, not a virtue. This realization can feel destabilizing. Was any of it real? The answer is yes, but incomplete. The psyche doesn't condemn past adaptations. It outgrows them. The pain lies not in having been naive, but in refusing to remain so. Trauma often sharpens this transformation. When the nervous system has learned what unchecked access costs, it begins to value boundaries as safety rather than selfishness. Modern psychology confirms what ancient wisdom implied. Self-respect isn't an attitude, but a regulation of access. The dangerous woman understands this instinctively. She senses when closeness requires self-abandonment, and she steps back without drama. This stepping back is her sword, rarely drawn but always present. From the outside, this can look like emotional distance. In truth, it's emotional precision. She feels deeply, but selectively. She's learned that indiscriminate empathy drains meaning from compassion. Ancient philosophy echoes this restraint. We're told to be tolerant with others and strict with ourselves. The dangerous woman reverses the common misinterpretation. She becomes honest with herself and fair with others. She no longer absorbs what doesn't belong to her. At this stage, projection diminishes. She's no longer haunted by the fear of being seen as bad. The shadow has been welcomed into consciousness, named and tempered by responsibility. Morality only becomes real when you recognize the capacity for immorality. The woman who knows she could destroy but chooses not to embodies a goodness that's active rather than passive. Her ethics are lived, not performed. You might feel the echo of this within your own life. The quiet exhaustion of always being understanding. The subtle anger at being taken for granted. The longing to be both loving and sovereign. This longing isn't a flaw. It's the psyche calling for balance. The dangerous woman answers that call by becoming accountable to herself first. She no longer needs external permission to protect her inner world. As wholeness progresses, loneliness may appear briefly. Not as abandonment, but as recalibration. Old connections fall away when they can't survive truth. This loneliness is often misinterpreted as failure, yet it's seen as a natural consequence of becoming real. The dangerous woman doesn't rush to fill the silence. She listens to it. In that listening, she hears her own voice, no longer drowned out by expectation. Gradually, new forms of connection emerge. They're slower, deeper, and less performative. People approach her differently now. Some with respect, some with unease, some not at all. She accepts all three without internal negotiation. Her worth no longer fluctuates based on response. Ancient observers noted that the one who needs little is closest to the divine. The dangerous woman needs little because she has reclaimed herself. Her goodness now is unmistakable. It's not loud. It doesn't convince. It doesn't rescue. It stands. And in standing, it invites others to meet themselves honestly or to turn away. This invitation is the final test. Many will choose comfort over truth. She doesn't chase them. Her dangerous side knows when pursuit becomes self-betrayal. What remains is a woman at peace with her contradictions. Gentle yet unyielding. Compassionate yet unexploitable. Loving yet free. This isn't an ideal. It's a psychological achievement earned through confrontation, loss, and integration. The journey doesn't end here, but something fundamental has stabilized. The woman no longer asks whether she's good. She knows something subtle, but irreversible has taken root in her inner life. It's not confidence in the performative sense, nor detachment masquerading as strength. It's coherence. The parts of her psyche that once worked against one another now communicate. The ego no longer panics at the presence of instinct. The shadow no longer needs to sabotage from below. This is described as a new center of gravity, where the personality is no longer ruled by fear of disapproval, but oriented toward meaning. Meaning changes the way she moves through the world. She no longer rushes to correct misunderstandings or soften her edges. She allows silence to do its work. This restraint is often mistaken for indifference, yet it's the opposite. She cares enough not to lie with excessive reassurance. She understands now that false peace breeds resentment, while truth, even when uncomfortable, clears the ground for something real. The dangerous woman has also made peace with ambivalence. She no longer needs to be entirely liked or entirely understood. This is a radical shift. The psyche relaxes when it no longer performs a moral identity for an audience. Identification with goodness alone creates inflation, a brittle righteousness that shatters under stress. Integrated goodness is humbler. It doesn't claim purity. It claims responsibility. Responsibility here isn't burden but authorship. She authors her reactions. She authors her presence. When faced with provocation, she pauses, not because she's suppressing herself, but because she has options. The unintegrated person reacts compulsively. The individuated person chooses. This is the quiet danger others sense. They can't predict her because she's not ruled by unconscious scripts. Her relationship with anger has transformed most of all. Anger once frightened her because it threatened her identity as good. Now it informs her. It signals violation. It sharpens perception. It doesn't spill indiscriminately. Like fire contained in a hearth, it warms rather than burns the house. Modern trauma research aligns with this ancient insight. Suppressed anger doesn't disappear. It turns inward as shame, anxiety, or exhaustion. Expressed consciously, it becomes protection. You might notice how this shifts her body as well. Her posture changes. Her breath deepens. She takes up the space she occupies without apology. This isn't dominance, it's presence. The body mirrors psychic integration long before words catch up. The nervous system, no longer braced for constant accommodation, settles into alert calm. Safety is no longer outsourced, it's generated internally. In the collective unconscious, this woman activates an ancient image that's been misunderstood for centuries. She's not the seductress nor the saint. She's the guardian of thresholds. Those who approach with sincerity are welcome. Those who approach with entitlement feel an unnamed resistance. This resistance isn't hostility. It's discernment. The psyche recognizes it instinctively and responds accordingly. Some will attempt to test her, to provoke a return to the old version. They may accuse her of changing, of becoming distant, of losing her warmth. These accusations are invitations to regress. She declines them quietly. Ancient wisdom advised not to be disturbed when others act according to their nature. The dangerous woman understands that others will grieve the loss of her former availability. She doesn't confuse that grief with guilt. At this point, external validation loses much of its power. Praise no longer intoxicates. Criticism no longer destabilizes. This neutrality is often misunderstood as coldness, but it's closer to freedom. The psyche has stopped oscillating between inflation and collapse. This is seen as a sign that the self, not the ego, has become the organizing principle. Life feels less dramatic, but more real. You might feel drawn to this state without knowing why. A sense that constant emotional labor is no longer sustainable. A desire for relationships that don't require self-erasure. This desire isn't selfish, it's evolutionary. The psyche seeks balance as naturally as the body seeks homeostasis. The dangerous woman is simply someone who stopped interrupting that process. Her kindness now has weight. When she gives, it matters. When she withholds, it teaches. She no longer explains herself into exhaustion. She trusts that those meant to understand will feel the coherence beneath her words. Those who don't aren't enemies. They're simply incompatible with her current level of integration. As her life simplifies internally, something unexpected happens externally. Opportunities align. Conversations deepen. Time stretches. When the psyche is no longer fragmented, energy returns. Neurosis is often the result of a life unlived. The dangerous woman has begun to live hers honestly. What lies ahead isn't perfection, but continuity. The work doesn't end, but it no longer feels like survival. It feels like stewardship of an inner kingdom reclaimed after long neglect. She rules it not with force, but with clarity. And this clarity prepares the ground for something final and quiet. In this final stage, there's no dramatic revelation, no moment of triumph that announces itself to the world. What arrives instead is a deep, almost ordinary peace, the kind that doesn't need witnesses. The dangerous woman no longer defines herself against anything. She's not resisting the past, proving a point, or correcting an image. She's simply aligned. This is described as the feeling of being in the right place psychologically, even when circumstances are imperfect. Her inner world no longer revolves around the question of goodness. That question belonged to a split psyche, one that feared its own darkness. Now goodness isn't an identity, but a byproduct of integration. She acts ethically not because she must, but because she sees clearly. Clarity makes cruelty unnecessary and submission impossible. This is the paradox at the heart of her transformation. Freedom from external validation is perhaps the most profound shift. Compliments pass through her without clinging. Rejection no longer rearranges her sense of self. She understands now that to live by applause is to die by silence. Ancient wisdom warned that dependence on praise enslaves the mind. The dangerous woman has stepped out of that invisible cage. Her worth is no longer negotiated daily. This freedom changes how she relates to time. There's less urgency, less emotional bargaining with the future. She doesn't rush intimacy or delay endings out of fear. She allows things to unfold or conclude as they must. This acceptance isn't passivity, it's trust in her capacity to respond. It's been written that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Her thoughts now return consistently to one place: self-respect. Rebirth isn't becoming someone new, but recovering what was buried. The dangerous woman recognizes herself in this way. She hasn't become harsher. She's become honest. She hasn't lost tenderness. She's anchored it. The parts of her once labeled too much or too intense have found their proper scale. Nothing needs to be cut off for love anymore. There's also forgiveness here, though not the performative kind. She forgives herself for surviving the only way she knew how. She forgives others without reopening the door. This distinction is critical. Forgiveness is internal release, not renewed access. The dangerous woman knows the difference. Her boundaries remain intact, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. You might feel a quiet recognition as this story settles. A sense that goodness has been misdefined for far too long. That true virtue requires strength, discernment, and the courage to disappoint. This recognition isn't meant to turn you against softness, but to deepen it. Softness chosen freely is powerful. Softness demanded is erasure. The woman stands now at ease within herself. She's no longer driven by the need to be special, chosen, or indispensable. She's present. Her life may appear ordinary from the outside, but internally it's governed by an unshakable order. When the individual aligns with the self, life feels meaningful regardless of circumstance. The dangerous woman embodies this alignment. There's nothing left to prove, nothing left to suppress. The shadow walks beside her, no longer an enemy, but an ally that keeps her awake and grounded. The ego serves rather than rules. The psyche breathes. This is the quiet conclusion. No one applauds yet. Many long for a woman at peace with her power and her limits. Kind not because she must be, but because she chooses to be. Dangerous not because she seeks control, but because she cannot be controlled. She moves forward without seeking permission. Thank you for spending this time with us. Your journey gives life to this channel. Stay with us, and together we'll keep exploring, growing, and discovering the truths that shape the soul. Until the next video, take care and see you.